game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong, or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called, or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors, but Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for, so I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire on SportsGrid. Craig Mish back with you here. Great to be with you as we got an action-packed edition of the show. We're going to preview tonight's NBA games with Gilbert McGregor. We're heating up, getting toward the NBA Finals, believe it or not. Also, the National Hockey League with some fun games last night to recap and preview as well. Got some news in the NFL as well. A mega contract handed out from a quarterback that you may not expect. So stay with us on the grid for that. And, of course, the next major coming up here on the PGA Tour. Brady Kannon is with us to preview the PGA Championship. Those are just some of the stories that we are working on today, including opening night in the WNBA. Will that get the highest ratings of everything happening in the NBA? We will see. All right, let's start off with last night. And the Oklahoma City Thunder, in a very tight game, beat the Dallas Mavericks in a game, by the way, the Dallas Mavericks probably could have won. Series is now tied up at 2. Tough game yesterday for Luka Doncic. 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with 34 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 steals. In the outcome in this one, the Mavericks were 1-point favorites over on FanDuel. They went up to about 1.5 at the time of tip-off. But needless to say, this one could have went either way. And this series, by the way, could probably go either way as well. But the messaging at this point has to be for the Dallas Mavericks, which is this could go 7 games. And the bottom line is that when Luka plays well, they usually win. When Kyrie Irving plays well, they usually win. They just haven't been getting that consistently in the series. Kyrie was asked about what the message is after losing the game. And as of now, Kyrie says it is not time to panic.
Don't panic and just stay poised. It's not time to have irrational emotions towards a game like tonight. You know what I mean? Just because we know how we played, we were honest with each other, and you know, we had the game pretty much in our hands and in control, and then down the stretch, we just didn't make enough of the clutch plays, and there were a few offensive rebounds, there were a few open threes, and Shai got going as well. He hit a lot of tough twos. You know, I had 5 fouls, so there was a few times I got matched up at the end where I should have done a better job of just forcing them into help and just sticking to the game plan. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. As one of the leaders of the team, it's definitely part of my responsibility to take my accountability, my responsibility for what I did and how I can improve moving forward. But in terms of how our team played, I feel like we played well enough to get the W tonight, you know, in the majority of the game, but we just didn't finish the job, and the little things matter. You know, free throws and offensive rebounds and those 50-50 basketballs we saw when they beat us in OKC, what that looked like. So tonight was one of those times where it got down close to the end of the game, and we just couldn't get over that hump.
Yeah, and as of right now, no time to panic. I think on either side, it seems like a coin flip type series. Now, on the other side of the coin, you have the Cleveland Cavaliers. Indeed, could be time to panic, especially if Donovan Mitchell is going to miss another game. By the way, he missed last night's game against Boston. And credit to the Cavs, they covered the spread. The line went up to 12.5 before tip. Boston wins 109-102. Jason Tatum with 33 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. Jaylen Brown also had a nice game, 27 points, 8 rebounds. By the way, the total went down from 207 to 204. We also learned that Donovan Mitchell is worth about 3.5 points in the NBA from seeing that outcome yesterday. But nationally, right now, Boston is on cruise control to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe even get to the finals. We'll see what happens between Indiana and New York as they play tonight. Jason Tatum talked about playing on a team last night that has a lot of players playing for each other, and indeed that was the reason he says the outcome was what it was last night.
You guys got a screenshot of what it's like being on a team. It's like having 15 brothers. We spend so much time with each other from preseason or, this off season till now, 9 months later, 90 some odd games that, we there for each other. And even the most mentally tough, strong person can use some encouragement sometime, from your teammates, and just letting you know that he got my back and vice versa, and the rest of the guys. We have talks like that all the time. You guys got to see it because he had a mic on, but just shows the togetherness of this team.
And indeed, it would be the case if the Boston Celtics are able to win the next game, they move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, tonight is a big night in the WNBA. It is the debut of a lot of players, including number 1 overall pick, Caitlin Clark. Also, Angel Reese, Camila Cardoza, among many, as the WNBA opens up their season this evening. They also made the announcement earlier this morning that the new team headed to the Bay Area has a new name, or just a name in general. They're an expansion team. They'll be called the Valkyries. The Golden State Valkyries will begin competition in 2025. Meanwhile, how about Caitlin Clark's head coach at Iowa decides to call it quits after 32 years, deciding to retire? Lisa Bluter announces her retirement after winning 884 career games with the Hawkeyes. Congratulations to her, and now she can watch Caitlin Clark maybe in person too. OG Anunoby has been ruled out, by the way, for Game 5 for the New York Knicks. This is not a surprise. He's got a hamstring issue, going to miss the 3rd straight game with the strain. Precious Achiuwa should start at power forward. Anunoby could potentially play Friday night in Game 6, but as of right now, other than a pool workout, has not resumed running, so probably up against it for Friday as well. Bit of a surprise with a contract extension given out yesterday, but maybe we shouldn't have been with the performance last season that Jared Goff had at quarterback for the Detroit Lions. He gets his bag, $212 million for Jared Goff. Probably would have thought this would have happened with the Rams several years ago, but no, happens with the Lions. $170 million guaranteed. Number 1 overall pick formerly with the Rams, as I mentioned. Highest paid Lion in franchise history. They've also given contract extensions to Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's the highest paid wide receiver. And Penei Sewell at 4 years, $112 million. So Goff will be in Detroit for the long term. Also, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have agreed to a contract extension with Antoine Winfield, 4 years, $84.1 million. They've now re-signed Winfield, Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and Levante David. Winfield at $21.025 million per season is now the highest paid defensive back heading into 2024. It was announced by Fox Sports yesterday that Tom Brady is going to make his debut as an announcer during the Week 1 matchup of the Cowboys and Browns alongside Kevin Burkhardt. It's a 4:25 Eastern game. And by the way, if you're saying to yourself, wait a second, how do you know the Cowboys and Browns are playing Week 1? That is because the NFL is constantly leaking their schedule before everything becomes official tomorrow. Also, the Buffalo Bills have a new wide receiver. His name is Marquez Valdez-Scantling, of course, former Packer, former member of the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. It's a one-year deal, according to ESPN, worth $4.5 million. By the way, we've got some confirmed games from the NFL through the leaks. We know Thursday Night Football's opener is going to be the Ravens and Chiefs. We had this yesterday. Friday's first game ever in Brazil on a Friday night is the Packers and Eagles. Sunday, as we mentioned, 4:25 Eastern, opening weekend on the 8th, Cowboys-Browns. Monday Night Football, the Jets open up the season again, hoping for better things from Aaron Rodgers. In this one, Bengals play the Chiefs on the 15th, September the 15th. Bengals at Chiefs there. All right, very quickly, in hockey last night, the Hurricanes came back to defeat the Rangers. So New York still leads the series 3-2. They can close it out later in the week. And in that series, also the Dallas Stars defeated the Colorado Avalanche. And the Stars lead the series 3-1. Major League Baseball made the announcement official yesterday. Games will no longer air Sunday mornings on Peacock Network, or Peacock Streaming, as I should say. They have inked a new contract with Roku, and those will start on early Sunday morning games. They've signed the contract to make it official. It's being called Sunday Leadoff. In addition, NASCAR is adding an in-season tournament like the NBA to their NASCAR schedule. That will officially begin in 2025. So we've got it all covered for you, including the games in the NBA tonight. Let's get a preview. Coming up next, Gilbert McGregor joins us courtesy of Sporting News. Stay with us here on SportsGrid. This is NewsWire, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Look at the Denver Nuggets and say, whoa, just a week ago, they were that minus 115 or so price. Now we're looking at them at a 7-1 price. Any chances the Nuggets can actually come back?
I think this is going 6 or 7 games, so I think that could be a little bit of a tighter spread between those two. But when you got those two guys, those two monsters, and Towns and Edwards, it's just really hard.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The Early Line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
Sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're going to get into last night's games and also preview this evening's in the National Basketball Association. I think we're getting some clarity in at least one series. Maybe we'll get some more, and also open up the WNBA season. Is Gilbert McGregor from Sporting News. He's here with us to preview it all and recap some as well. Gilbert, great to have you back here on NewsWire, and really some fun games I thought last night. I feel like we learned nothing about the Oklahoma City-Dallas series. I feel like that's probably going to go the distance. But at the same time, I think we probably learned that Cleveland does not have enough to go and beat Boston. Does that sound fair to you, or do you think Cleveland sticks around?
You know what, Craig? First of all, glad to be back. But, from the games last night, I give Cleveland a lot of credit for fighting without Donovan Mitchell, without Jarrett Allen. But I think it says a little more about that Celtics team that game was a fight. They had no business being that close. And I think the Celtics are still learning and getting out of their own way. I know they didn't have Kristaps Porzingis, and they're looking to get him back in the lineup. But as the Celtics move on, because all signs indicate that they probably will move on, they cannot afford to kind of show up and let teams hang around the way they let Cleveland hang around last night. Maybe it's because they saw LeBron in the building. I'm not sure what it was. They got some flashbacks from playoff battles past. But as they go on to play better teams that are more whole, the Celtics cannot afford to let teams hang around like that.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, losing Mitchell, you just didn't think they had a chance, and they sort of made the most of the opportunities, keeping it close. 13-point underdogs, by the way, before that tipped off. So what happens now in this short series, Gilbert, with Oklahoma City and Dallas? I mean, what do you make of this? It feels like as Luka goes, Dallas goes, but that just can't be the entire story here, can it?
You know, that's one thing I saw last night from this Thunder team. They're growing up in real time. We talked a lot about, will they be able to perform in situations like this, games that come down to the wire, when on the other side they see two proven playoff performers in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Well, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander proved last night he deserves to be right at that table with those guys. I think the biggest thing with this series is the concern around Luka Doncic's knee. He said it's not going to get better until he can stop playing on it, and you can tell that it's bothering him. The performances that he's having aren't what we're used to seeing from him. It's not what he showed to be an MVP finalist this year. And the other guys are stepping up, whether it's PJ Washington or Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively off the bench, but they need Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving to take them home if they can hang around throughout the game, and they weren't able to do that last night. So if the Thunder can continue to lean on their guy, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and continue to improve as the series goes on, Dallas might be in trouble.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, you're right. OKC sort of looks like the better team, but they haven't put it together consistently, but Dallas hasn't either. Okay, so on to tonight's games, Gilbert. The Pacers have played better than the Knicks through 4 games. We know that. We also know the Knicks are banged up. But in the Garden, it's like Brunson time. But the odds makers are telling us, Gilbert, not so fast. Knicks only 2.5-point favorites. And from looking at basically every way that they make these lines in the NBA, they're telling us this is an even game. 2.5 points, total of 217. Indiana has come close in New York, but Brunson's been Superman. What happens tonight?
I think Indiana's probably kicking themselves for letting some opportunities go in New York, and they really have taken all the momentum in this series. I think the spread is very much reflective of the injuries that are really weighing down on the Knicks. I think the Pacers do have the momentum. We talk about Brunson, and he's always continued to prove us wrong, but I think the injuries that he's battling with, in addition to the absence of OG Anunoby, in addition to the absence of Mitchell Robinson, and the fact that they have a small rotation as is, I'm kind of leaning Indiana in this one. It feels like it's going to be a close game, just like some of the others in this series have been. They're coming off that blowout win. The only thing that's given me a little bit of pause is I think the Knicks will have a little sense of pride. Indiana's starting to feel themselves a little bit, and they got a little mouthy late in that Game 4 win. So maybe New York will bounce back because of that.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that game, but I am pretty biased here. I love this Minnesota-Denver series. To me, that's the best series of them all, Gilbert, because I love it when the champs are challenged. And boy, when they lost those first 2 games, so many people said, hey, eventually this series is just going to be over. We don't know when. We don't know how. Boy, were they wrong. Nuggets back up to 4.5-point favorites tonight against Minnesota. And the total is interesting to me, too. It feels low, 206 tonight between these two teams. So I guess the assumption is that Minnesota is going to play pretty good defense no matter who and when they play. Can they win this game tonight, Gilbert? Because if they don't, I don't know that Denver loses 2 times in the final 2 games.
I can say that I'm guilty of writing the defending champs off maybe a little too soon in this series. They show that championship medal to go get those 2 wins at the Target Center in Minneapolis. I think this game tonight and the rest of the series is a toss-up, the same way you talk about beating this Nuggets team 2 times in 3 games. The Nuggets, to complete this series comeback, will have had to beat the Timberwolves 4 times in 5 games. And I think the Timberwolves have shown the ability to neutralize some of the Nuggets options. Aaron Gordon is playing out of his mind lately, so can he continue to keep up what he did during those games that got the Nuggets back into the series? So that's what I got my eye on. Role players do play better at home. What can Minnesota do defensively? Because they did limit them earlier in the series. But like you said, Craig, that over-under seems pretty low. At 206, I'm not sure if they can stay under that one tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that Denver will get it back going tonight at home. I know they played horribly in the first 2 games. All right, so educate me here, Gilbert, tonight. WNBA opener. I can't pretend to be the expert here. As the Sun take on the Fever. Sun, 6-point favorites. I mean, I guess the Fever must really stink. Because I would think that the public would back Caitlin Clark so much that this line could not potentially even be close to anywhere near it is. It's like immediately I look at that and I say, wait a second, I'm betting on the Fever here because Caitlin Clark plays for the Fever. But my gosh, they must be really bad, right, Gilbert? I mean, that's the only reason I could see the spread like what it is.
They're due for a few welcome to the WNBA moments. Well, at least Caitlin Clark is. And she's a generational talent. She's going to figure it out. And she's going to have special moments this year. But the Sun are a veteran team led by Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner. I don't think they're going to let some rookie, regardless of the hype, just come in and show them up on their own home floor. So I think that's what we see in the spread in this one. But I do expect Caitlin Clark to have some special moments. Her and Aaliyah Boston, the reigning rookie of the year.
Yeah, and I would think that Connecticut, I mean, I don't know anything about this, but I would think Connecticut really wants to win this game. I cannot imagine they'd want to get shown up by that. All right, well, great to see you, Gilbert. Thanks for coming back on the show. Great to have you. We'll catch up again soon.
Sounds good.
Look at the Denver Nuggets and say, whoa, just a week ago, they were that minus 115 or so price. Now we're looking at them at a 7-1 price. Any chances the Nuggets can actually come back?
I think this is going 6 or 7 games, so I think that could be a little bit of a tighter spread between those two. But when you got those 2 guys, those 2 monsters, and Towns and Edwards, it's just really hard.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa, give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
this
late
sort
night.
Of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. It's time for the SportsGrid sound off as we dive into things happening in social media and sports. If you're finding things that are trending, maybe we bring those to you here on the show and also hear from some people involved in the sport, including members of our social media team and also a daily business note with Rick Horrow as well. But let's start with last night. Boston Celtics pick up a very big win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. It would appear that the Celtics eventually, whenever that is, probably going to win the series and move on. But in Cleveland last night, boy, it was the Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum show. In particular, Jaylen Brown is shooting 61%. That's right. That's a high number, folks. 61% from the field in this series. And true to form, Jaylen Brown, who's never been shy of a quote, told reporters last night that it's going to be really hard to get a handle on him, especially when he thinks no one can cover him.
I just see me being aggressive. I don't think anybody over there could really guard me. I just get into the paint, take my time, and I feel like that's what I've been doing, not just in the playoffs, but all season long, you know. So I just get to my spots and just do what I do.
Not really bulletin board material, especially when you're delivering. Like he said, if you're shooting over 60% from the field in the NBA, you're doing something right. Again, that includes three-point percentage as well. Well, the WNBA season begins tonight, and do you have WNBA fever, like the Indiana fever? No pun intended there. Remember, Caitlin Clark broke all kinds of records statistically for playing college basketball. And as far as ratings were concerned, more people watched Caitlin Clark at Iowa than had ever watched women's college basketball before. So now the bottom line question becomes, is this going to happen in the WNBA? And specifically for the new deal that Tegna Broadcasting has to air Indiana Fever games. For more on that, here's the sports professor, Rick Horrow.
Sports professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports with your daily numbers game. How about the Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark, WNBA? Right at the time for national television negotiations, but it couldn't be better locally. Indiana Pacers Group, which part of the Fever ownership, have a deal with Tegna Broadcasting to televise at least 17 of the Fever game on Indianapolis traditional television, unheard of. Also going to Iowa, why? Caitlin Clark, of course, and Ohio, and other places. What it does is signals a deal for all of the WNBA's 12 teams to get local programming as well. And Gray Television, Coastal, other media groups, Nexstar, Weagle Broadcasting, Sinclair, all involved in the programming mix. And Caitlin Clark kind of started the frenzy. And by the way, WNBA, Toronto, a next franchise, transborder. This league is really hot mainly because of Caitlin Clark.
And a new team coming in the WNBA in both the Bay Area and then another one in Toronto. Yes, Rick is right. The WNBA is flying high. All right, now it's time to check in on social media to see what's trending. No question right now, it is the Detroit Lions, a fresh new contract for their quarterback, a fresh new contract for their wide receiver. Brian Nasto says right now it is all about the Motor City.
The Detroit Lions have sold out their season tickets for the second straight year in a row with a wait list of $100 for the 2025 season. Lions fans embracing Terrion Arnold, the cornerback coming out of Alabama. You go from Roll Tide to One Pride. The Lions looking to have one of the best defenses heading into this upcoming NFL season. Their current win total is sitting at 10.5 wins, along with being favorites to win the NFC North at plus 145. With Dan Campbell leading the energy into that locker room, there is nothing impossible for this Lions team heading into the 2024 season. Craig, back to you.
Thanks very much, Brian. And yes, it does kind of feel like it's Super Bowl or bust. Crazy to say for the Lions going into the upcoming NFL season. Also fair to say the Houston Texans have some pretty high aspirations for the upcoming season. Very funny moment yesterday with a lot of the rookies on the field doing their off-season stuff with their teams, including a rookie, Kamari Lassiter, who went to the University of Georgia, was asked if he knew that his head coach, D'Amico Ryans, went to his rival, the University of Alabama.
You kind of brought up a second ago the culture that was established in Georgia, when the culture here as well. With D'Amico going to Alabama, you going to Georgia, what were some similarities that you noticed between him and Coach Smart and what they preach?
Coach went to Bama?
D'Amico.
Yeah. No, I ain't know that.
Very funny to hear two SEC guys, rivals now, again, back on the same field playing with each other this year, and the Houston Texans are one of those teams to watch. All right, coming up next, the very latest in sports wagering and legality of it going on around the country. Matthew Waters weighs in from Legal Sports Report right after.
You look at the Denver Nuggets and say, whoa, just a week ago, they were that minus 115 or so price. Now we're looking at them at a 7-1 price. Any chances the Nuggets can actually come back?
I think this is going 6 or 7 games, so I think that could be a little bit of a tighter spread between those two. But when you got those two guys, those two monsters, and Towns and Edwards, it's just really hard.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The Early Line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
Sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Earnings weeks are upon us, and that gets our friends over at Legal Sports Report excited. Yes, true, believe it or not. Matthew Waters is with us today as we're diving into all the very latest earnings reports, a lot of listening, a lot of laptops open, a lot of ear pods, Matt, I'm guessing. Thanks for coming on NewsWire. And I guess, anticipation for this sort of week is important because one of the bigger companies gives access to some of their financial dealings, and that's Flutter, who owns FanDuel. Thanks again for coming on the show. I guess is that the bigger story of the week?
Yeah, every time that you can hear from the company who is either one or two, and they announced today they are one in sports betting in the U.S., you got to pay attention, Craig. And FanDuel is interesting because we knew they gave us an update back in March that only left the last 2 weeks of March up in the air. And we didn't know what their results were going to look like because they gave through March 17th, results were pretty strong. Well, that last 2 weeks in March, obviously March Madness, all customer-friendly results. So that actually hit them $76 million worth, just that 2 weeks. But they still wound up being positive on the quarter. That's great. It was a $79 million improvement from the first quarter of last year to this year. And that's what you want to see with a company like Flutter, because Flutter is still, they're still acquiring customers at the highest clip in the industry, it seems like. Flutter is going to keep bringing customers on board as long as it stays profitable to them in their return guidelines. And that means as long as customers are basically paying back what it costs to acquire them within 2 years, FanDuel is going to go out and acquire those customers. And those economics have been the same for a while now. And so they're still churning. So to see them still spending in old states, spending big in new states, they had a great launch in North Carolina where they say they took the highest handle. We don't get operator-specific data from North Carolina, so we can't say exactly what that is, and FanDuel didn't break it out either. But they say they're leading in North Carolina. 1 in 20 adults in North Carolina are now FanDuel customers within a 45-day period at the end of March 31st. That's pretty impressive, too. So to see that FanDuel is gaining the kind of scale that it is, still seeing a lot of costs going out to acquire customers, but hitting that positive EBITDA mark And being able to survive a $76 million swing in sports betting results, that's all very positive for the sports betting market in general. Now, is it positive for bettors? That's a little hard to say because FanDuel is obviously doing this by putting more parlays out there and improving that product. We didn't get a whole lot of information on current trading right now for April and May, but we did hear that for its MLB product, FanDuel started to unroll some new, deeper products for MLB at the beginning of the season. And that has improved the mix of same-game parlay. And in terms of total handle, it's up 4 percentage points compared to last year over the first 3 weeks of the season. So we see that what FanDuel is doing here to deepen its products, to give people more options, we see that it's working, that it's paying off, and that they are able to get to a scale when even when you have a huge hit like March Madness or the Super Bowl or something like that, they're going to be able to withstand it. They're going to be able to show earnings for their shareholders, which is the most important thing to them, right? So FanDuel is doing very well. Flutter as an entire company is doing very well. They have a massive international business as well. But the prospects for FanDuel look great right now. They said that they are first in sports betting. They are first in iGaming, and they plan to keep spending to get those customers that are going to keep them at those leadership levels.
Yeah, more parlays, it sounds like. That's what we need around here.
Basically.
More parlays. Same game 5-player parlay. Yeah, it sounds like a winner to me. Anyway. Okay, now let's move over to, so that was the bright side of sports betting. Maybe this is not so much, but not surprising here, I guess. Maybe from a technology point of view, I did not expect to read this story over on Legal Sports Report about ESPN Bet. And in terms of some of the technology, as far as how they're being run, not ranked particularly high, especially among sportsbooks that are run by a company called Kambi that's extremely popular and by all accounts doing very well. So let's dive into this. What's going on here?
Yeah, so a little bit of background on this, Craig. If you remember Penn last year, when they were still partnered with Barstool, they migrated their tech from Kambi, a third-party tech supplier, to their own in-house tech over the MLB All-Star break. And they said that this was going just to be overall better in the long run for Penn and Barstool at the time. They then shifted not too long after that to ESPN Bet, and they kind of restarted the whole process here. And we have Eilers & Krejcik. They are a analysis firm in the gaming industry that they do a fantastic job. Their research is very expensive to get your hands on, but it's worth it. And they have a team of testers that look at all of the apps, and this was their first half rankings. And ESPN Bet came in at number 11th. And that's kind of a kick in the rear when you consider that BetRivers at number 8 uses Kambi, and BetJack, it's a localized Ohio brand on Kambi. They both performed better than ESPN Bet. That is not great for Penn Entertainment right now. More not great news has come out. They've been downgraded to neutral instead of buy from Bank of America today based on ESPN Bet and how it is dragging down the earnings of the overall company. Penn has a fantastic retail casino business across the U.S. These regional casinos do great business for them, but the overhang for years now has been sports betting and their interactive investments. And there's just no, we don't see that ending for ESPN Bet right now. They're going to have to invest more to get more customers to hit those marks that Disney wants to see to keep the partnership going. And I thought it was telling this morning from FanDuel CEO, Flutter CEO Peter Jackson, talking about the promotional activity in the U.S. and whether it's rational or people are outspending. And he said, quote, "We're not seeing people spend ridiculous amounts of money trying to persuade customers to try out a product which isn't very good." That felt pretty targeted at ESPN Bet. And so we're just going to have to see what Penn does moving forward to get ESPN Bet up to speed. We know that they're working on parlays. We know that they want that parlay product to be deeper overall. They feel like that's where they're losing out the customers because CEO Jay Snowden of Penn Entertainment is saying, the customers are there. We're just not getting enough of their wallet share. We're just not doing this or doing that. And at the end of the day, he's putting it all on better parlay depth to get the product similar to what DraftKings and FanDuel have, and also getting the integration working with the ESPN app and seeing what that can do there. Because remember, we've seen surveys showing that people that frequent the ESPN app would switch to ESPN Bet as their primary sportsbook if they can get that integration correct. So, a lot of moving parts still, but not a great look for Penn right now.
No, well, and again, things will change, and certainly the hope is that they are early on in this process and can get better as it goes. A lot of success, by the way, as Bet Rivers has previously reported. They are not in every state, but one of the states that they are exclusively in is Delaware, and they're looking for more exclusivity. Is that what's happening here, Matt?
What's happening, Craig, is the Delaware legislature is proposing opening up the market right after Bet Rivers signed an exclusive agreement. So they are emailing customers. They are emailing customers saying, reach out to your legislators. And Craig, I don't know if this was approved or not, but I live in Delaware. I live in Dover. And I saw a gray sedan with 2 Bet Rivers T-shirts strung up in the back, held up by the window. I don't know if that's official or not, but they're doing what they can do to get the brand name out there.
Understood. Great stuff, Matthew. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Look at the Denver Nuggets and say, whoa, just a week ago, they were that minus 115 or so price. Now we're looking at them at a 7-1 price. Any chances the Nuggets can actually come back?
I think this is going 6 or 7 games, so I think that could be a little bit of a tighter spread between those two. But when you got those two guys, those two monsters, and Towns and Edwards, it's just really hard.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The Early Line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Major tournament on the PGA Tour is coming up this week, the PGA Championship. I've noticed over on FanDuel and DraftKings, virtually all of the odds are up now with the tournament matchups and the top 10s, 20s, 30s. I think for those of you who are betting on it, it's go time. Let's bring in Brady Kannon now to see if we can get some positions here. Brady, great to have you back. We'll quickly recap here the Wells Fargo Championship. Rory McIlroy playing at a very high level going into this. He's not going to be the favorite at the PGA Championship. That's going to be Scottie Scheffler. But certainly Rory and Scottie are right there at the top.
Yeah, it's really a great storyline that has developed here going into the PGA, Craig. You have Rory just absolutely dismantling Xander Schauffele to get his 4th victory at the Wells Fargo Championship last week. And he looked stunning in doing so from holes 8 through 15, an 8-hole stretch there. He played it in 8 under par while Xander played it at even par. And at that point, the golf tournament was over. But let's not write off Xander Schauffele either. This guy is still a top 5 player in the world. He didn't play that poorly on Sunday. He was better than most of the field. He didn't necessarily lose the golf tournament, but Rory absolutely won it. And it's very interesting that now he comes into Valhalla, the site that he won his last major to date in 2014. It's amazing that it's been 10 years since Rory's won a major, but it was right here at the PGA Championship at Valhalla. And in that year, in 2014, he arrived at Valhalla coming off of 2 consecutive victories, as he has done once again this year. Of course, he won the team event, the Zurich Classic, and now his 2nd straight victory at the Wells Fargo. So a very similar setup for Rory. You've got Scotty, the brand new father, Xander, blowing 54-hole leads at the Players and the Wells Fargo. Brooks Koepka's in the conversation, Jon Rahm. And you know what's cool about this major, Craig? And you can no longer say this about the Players' Championship. The PGA Championship is now truly the very best field in golf. You've got 16 players from the LIV circuit here, no amateurs, 20 club professionals that make up the total of 156. So, 136 players here are pretty real deal guys. And most of them, I would say, you might be 80 to 90 players deep that have a legitimate shot to win this week.
Yeah, and I think, and we'll go through some of the players that you like. And again, we're looking at odds courtesy of BetMGM. And what I find interesting about this week in particular, not just from the positions that you're taking on some of the players, but also from looking at some of the odds, a lot of the top LIV golfers are finding their way onto the odds leaderboard here, with Bryson DeChambeau at 25-1 and Rahm at 18-1 and Brooks at 14-1. Looks a little different to me than it did for the Masters. So why is that, Brady, this week? Is this just a course that is meant for Brooks Koepka or for Bryson DeChambeau? I know DeChambeau played very well early on at the Masters. What's the thought process behind setting these odds?
Yeah, I think it's the golf course, Craig, and it's also the nature of the PGA Championship. If you look at the PGA Championship over the last 10 years or so, it's really become a bomber's tournament. We've seen Bryson DeChambeau finish 4th twice in this championship. Brooks Koepka has won it 3 times. It's really become a tournament that caters to the big hitters, and those are the guys at the top of the odds board here this week. Jon Rahm, DeChambeau, Joaquin Niemann, these guys. Brooks Koepka, of course, not only is a big hitter, but has the history at the PGA. So some of these guys that have made their way over to the LIV circuit, Phil Mickelson, a surprise winner in 2021 and not a short hitter either. So some of these guys that have made their way over to the LIV circuit, they happen to be very good PGA Championship players, and a lot of them very big hitters. So, the Masters is a little bit unique. I think it takes some different skill sets. It takes a lot of creativity and touch, especially around the greens. I think the British Open is a very different test, but the PGA and the U.S. Open are probably the most closely related. And there happens to be a lot of guys on the LIV circuit that have been very successful in both of those championships.
Yeah, and I think that from looking at some of the positions that you're taking is you're buying into the bangers, the heavy hitters this week, because you like Brooks, you like Bryson, Niemann at 40-1, Will Zalatoris, Sepp Straka. And this is like my favorite part of our segment when we talk, because I love when you take these big shots, because a lot of times, I don't think people realize this, is that, Brady, people can take this information, and Will Zalatoris doesn't necessarily have to win, or Sepp Straka doesn't necessarily have to win, or even Niemann, because you can take these players to win the championship. But again, over on MGM and everywhere else, there's top 20 finishers, top 30 finishers. And so you can kind of hedge your way through this thing, can't you?
Absolutely. Sepp Straka makes a lot of sense to me. He's not one of the biggest hitters. He's above average or around there, but he's extremely accurate. And these fairways are wide. When you have narrow fairways, really narrow fairways, it's actually a disadvantage for the shorter, accurate hitters because they're going to miss fairways too. And if the bigger hitter like Bryson is 50, 60, 70 yards past you, if you're both in the rough, Bryson still has the advantage. But when the fairways are wide, the guys that are not accurate off the tee, maybe they're real long, they're going to find the rough. But if you're very accurate, like Sepp Straka, it's okay if you're a little further back as long as you're in the short grass. Zalatoris is not necessarily a bomber either, but his record in the major championships is incredible. I was really surprised to see his price balloon. I got him in the neighborhood of 50-1, and I looked the very next morning on Monday morning, he shot 80 in the final round at the Wells Fargo, and I've seen him as high as, into the 90s to win this tournament. This is a guy that has an incredible record in majors, lost in a playoff just 2 years ago at the PGA Championship, finished second at the US Open, 3 top 10s at the Masters. So I kind of believe that he will show up once again for this event. He started off extremely well at the Wells Fargo and then kind of fell off over the weekend. I think he'll be ready to go this week. But yeah, the bombers, the top 20s, I mean, you can kind of play it the way you want. I think it is going to cater to the cream of the crop here. And yeah, if you want to take some of these shorter shots for a top 10, some of the longer shots for a top 30, I think a lot of these guys are going to find a way to get into those markets and cash a ticket for you.
Can't wait to watch this weekend. Thanks again for coming on, Brady.
You got it.
Look at the Denver Nuggets and say, whoa, just a week ago, they were that minus 115 or so price. Now we're looking at them at a 7-1 price. Any chances the Nuggets can actually come back?
I think this is going 6 or 7 games, so I think that could be a little bit of a tighter spread between those two. But when you got those two guys, those two monsters, and Towns and Edwards, it's just really hard.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
This sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. As you know, we end the show with some final thoughts each and every day. It's like similar to coming up in the 9th inning, even, up. It can't be even. Actually, it could be even. You can't be up because if you're up, the game ends in the bottom of the 9th inning. Let's be real. But we call it something along the lines of the final shot, final thought. In this case for NewsWire, it's called Last Licks. Let's begin with the new broadcast on Sunday mornings, formerly on Peacock streaming, no longer the case. It was announced yesterday. Guess what? A new company is taking over the Sunday broadcast. Sunday Leadoff, brought to you by Roku. That's right, folks. Roku is now going to be airing Major League Baseball games and streaming them for you. And by the way, some very big marquee matchups are coming up. In fact, the first one is this weekend. Now, these games have exclusivity as far as the time is concerned. These games are starting before noon Eastern. So therefore, if you're wondering why there are no West Coast teams playing, this does not happen until much later in the season. In fact, I think the first West Coast game is in July, Diamondbacks Padres. But it will all lead off with Red Sox at Cardinals, two very big franchises, so some good streaming ratings there, followed by Blue Jays Tigers on May 26th, June 2nd, Twins and Astros, June 9th, Giants, and the World Series champion Rangers. And of course, the Rangers are managed by Bruce Bochy, and he used to manage the San Francisco Giants, so that does make a ton of sense. Now, as far as Major League Baseball is concerned, with their new deal with Fanatics, they're always trying to come up with new ways to engage people to buy baseball cards. And this is one that really caught my eye. Now, of course, you've seen them before, autographed cards, one-of-one, jersey cards, patch cards. But how about baseball cards that, get this, are put into the pocket by the player? They play them with them in their pocket during the game. And then afterwards, they end up signing them and say it's a game-worn baseball card. This is actually true. This is going on with Bobby Witt Jr. and Corbin Carroll. Now, to say that these cards are in mint condition would be ridiculous because they're not. They're in the back of the player's pocket, and they probably get graded like a PSA, which is one of the grading card companies that gets a 1 or a 2. That's the lowest you can possibly get, with 10 being the highest. Wouldn't I know, because I'm a card collector. So basically, Bobby Witt Jr. takes his baseball card, his rookie card, puts it in his back pocket, plays with it throughout the game. It's destroyed, ends up signing it and saying, I played with this card. It's a 1-of-1 in my back pocket. Pretty cool idea, actually, when you think about it, because I think we make so much of this. Is this card gem mint? Is it perfect? Is it a 10 or is it a 9? This card is in terrible condition, but it's a game-used baseball card from these players. As of right now, just Bobby Witt and Corbin Carroll, but it's going to be a lot more than that. All right, when the NFL season opens up, we're going to be roasting Tom Brady in a different way, because we're going to be criticizing every single word this guy says when he makes his debut for Fox Sports. And we did find out his first game that he's going to broadcast. Wouldn't you know, it will be the one team that gets the highest ratings on television whenever they play. If they're good, bad, ugly, doesn't make a difference. It is the Dallas Cowboys. First opening weekend game for Brady, it was announced. He will make his debut along with Kevin Burkhardt. They made it official. Cowboys-Browns will be the first game that he does. Now, streaming on the Tom Brady roast was just out of this world. More people watch that on Netflix than any show ever on Netflix. So you can only imagine the value of having Brady broadcast the games. Whether he's good or not probably doesn't even make a difference. As we know, when the Cowboys are good or not, doesn't make a difference. People still watch. So count me in. I'll be one of the many that are watching this game just to see how Tom Brady does as a broadcaster. But as we've learned, pretty much everything that Brady has done professionally has worked out in a very big way, and I'm sure he'll do a great job on Fox as well. That will do it for our show today. Our guests were Gilbert McGregor from Sporting News, Brady Kannon from here on SportsGrid, and Matthew Waters from Legal Sports Report. As always, our associate producer is Frank, and our producer is Michael. And you know by now from watching the show, my name is Craig Mish. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning for another edition of NewsWire at 11 a.m. Eastern. Coming up next, it is the early line, followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast. And, of course, the guys and gals have you getting ready for tonight's games in the NBA, the NHL, and, yes, the WNBA, taking center stage tonight as Caitlin Clark makes her professional debut as a member of the Indiana Fever. So hopefully you can enjoy all of that as your second screen watching tonight, because remember, it's always smarter to be on SportsGrid. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning on our Wednesday edition of NewsWire. Until then, have a great day and a great evening. I'll see you then.